Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to V for Vendetta. So this is a movie donation reward. Let me just check here real quick, just so I get it right exactly who this is for. Come on. This is a reward for Venom0027. And yeah, this is a movie I had been wanting to see for quite a while and just never checked out. And I know very little about it, other than apparently it's based off of a comic. I think it's DC, but I'm not sure. It's based off of a comic, and the Guy Fawkes mask that is used by like Anonymous and whatnot got its start here. And that's the gist of what I really know about it. I don't even know who's in it. I think I heard Guy Ritchie was in it, but I'm not sure. I'm not confident in that at all. I'm not even sure if I'm getting the name right. But you guys know that's how I tend to like things. I tend to like going into these as blind as possible, so yeah. I don't really know anything about like the plot or characters or anything. Based on how the Guy Fawkes masks have been used for Anonymous and stuff, I assume maybe it has something to do with politics. Maybe some kind of like big conspiracy or anti government kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on the Anonymous things. And it's not, I'm not even like any kind of pro on all things Anonymous or anything. It's just, yeah, something I know about. So yeah, I don't really know what to expect going into this, but it is again one I have been wanting to check out for years and just never got around to. I don't even know when this film came out, you know? I don't even know what year this is from. But yeah, I just never got around to it. I just never decided to sit down and watch it. But now we are. um So thank you, Venom, for your continued support and for choosing this. Hopefully, I end up really liking it, or if not, at least hopefully I have at least somewhat of a good time watching. um, but we're just gonna get this started and hope for the best because I don't really have anything else to say going into this. Just not knowing much of anything. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the movie. I almost said episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, you know, I'm a nerd. When I see that it was Hugo Weaving, and the first thing I thought in my mind was, so Elrond from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Of all the roles he's played a lot of roles, a lot of big roles. That is the first one that comes to mind for me. I would not have guessed that was him based on the vocal performance. Um, it just it wouldn't have crossed my mind. Um, and let me look up here real quick. What kind of stuff has Guy Pearce been in? The one who I thought was playing him. Um, King's Speech. Oh, that's funny that I thought it was him because he was in The Count of Monte Cristo, the 2002 one. which I definitely have seen. So it's kind of funny that I thought that was him. He was also in The Time Machine, Prometheus, and various other things. But yeah, that's really funny that I thought it was Guy Pearce because of how the Count of Monte Cristo had a relevancy to this story. Um, so yeah, let's talk about this. So the gist of this is that America had a second civil war that got so bad it basically turned the US into just a shell of its former self. It was no longer the superpower country of the world. It was just a wreck, basically. And and during this, this conservative party in the UK, in England, organized and staged events including disease and fake terrorist attacks to promote their political candidate to winning the election and gaining power. Afterwards, they established a Christo-fascist rule over England, turning it into the semi-dystopian country that V wishes to save, basically. V, as a character, is really interesting. He was taken for human experimentation to the point where he forgot his life prior to it. And after his escape, he sought to not only take out the government that was responsible for all of it, but all the specific people as well, both in the camp that he was in as well as the ones behind the scenes pulling the strings. But he also, even above that, wanted to create this level of chaos and anarchy to fuel the citizens into taking back the country from this fascist regime. And there is a lot in here that I'm really surprised was blind to. um, I've talked about my political views on here before. Like, I don't make it a secret. But I'm going to just briefly mention it here again. I mentioned it in the reaction and everything. Yeah, our previous administration here in the US very much had the same vibes as the Christo fascist regime in this movie. There are a lot of moments where I was drawing a lot of comparisons. Like, you could even say that that propagandist news personality that V killed was very much the likes of Rush Limbaugh or Alex Jones. Maybe not as crazy as Alex Jones, but Alex Jones is his own brand of crazy. But more like Rush Limbaugh, I would say. Or others like that, who would just mindlessly serve the leadership without, like, even understanding the negatives behind it. And there were just so many comparisons, especially over this last year with the entire COVID situation, that I'm really surprised I didn't hear people talking about this more within that context before our current administration was elected in. And it's like, I just it's so obvious to me, and that's really scary. And here's the things. A big aspect of this was the Christo-fascist, that Christo-fascist, there we go, aspect of it, because that was more apparent earlier in the film, and it kind of petered out a little bit later on, but it was still a notable part of it. The idea that this regime was built on these kind of beliefs that stem from Christian teachings, but take it to a fascist level. Another thing I've made no secret of, I am a Christian. But the people who think like this and think the Bible like condones stuff like this, even not even just the straight up fascist level of things, but even just so much as any level of that. You'll see pastors who like root for not only LGBTQ plus people to have their rights taken away, but there are some who say that it would be better off if they were dead. You see pastors on the conservative right who very much will violently go into spiels about immigrants and black people, especially during the entire Black Lives Matter protests. That there was a lot of pastors just going heavy into attacking the black people just wanting basic rights and human treatment, and still do to this day. And these people, like these pastors and others on the right, still do this to this day. It's not like it's just gone away because that's not like actively in the news as much anymore. And it's just, it bothers me to see people taking this kind of stuff so out of context and so against the actual meaning, just to like force their bigotry and supremacy and shit. And it bothered me in this film. The story of the one woman who was imprisoned in the cell next to V, all because she was lesbian. Like that you guys probably could tell, and I made sure to mention it as well, but I was really having a hard time holding it in during that. I was getting extremely emotional. Um, and it's just that kind of shit bothers me. And that's the point. That is definitely the point of this film and the comic it's based off of, I presume, at least. Um, it's meant to show you this stuff that is unequivocally wrong, that is bad, that is evil. And it's not going to hold back from that. And it wants to make sure that you know how bad it is and how that kind of stuff needs to be fought against. And personally, I think it sends the message better that way through a film or a comic or what have you. People are going to hear the message better that way. And it's insane. Evie's character, let's talk about that. Evie's character Evie at the end said that V was all of us. That V was not the person, but the idea. And that V was all of us, every person who wanted to see that change. But I argue that from the perspective of this as a film, Evie was all of us. Evie was the character who we are meant to see this film and its themes, its messages, its ideas through. She is the character who we're being told the story and through. So the moments she's on screen feel like they're the moments that are this big of a deal that really sell the film. And I'm not just saying like I'm not just saying that it's Natalie Portman specifically, that her acting is like elevating this or anything. I mean, I like Natalie Portman, but it's more so the character. She has a personality, she has a character, but in a lot of ways she almost comes across like a blank slate. As someone to, like I said, see ourselves through. And to see the, again, themes, events, all of that in this movie through. She doesn't have that huge of a role until the end. Her character, her role, even though she's in most of the film and is one of the two main characters of the film, her role is actually very minimal. She doesn't do much until the end when she chooses to pull that lever. When she chooses to do something. And that's kind of why I see it as her representing all of us. We're just seeing all this happen, maybe taking little actions at a time here and there. But until we actually pull that lever, until we actually fight back, what are we really doing? And maybe that's just me thinking about it that way. Maybe it is. I acknowledge that. But that is definitely how I saw her character. And because of that, that's why I'm not sold on the love angle with her and V. Because she didn't really have a huge notable role to play in the film, it never felt like these two actually forged a real connection romantically. It never felt like there was that kind of chemistry to them. It more felt like Evie was V's apprentice in training, if anything. They never read as romantic to me, so when by the end they're talking about loving each other, and it's like, where did this come from? It just felt out of nowhere and kind of random and weird. It just didn't, again, it didn't feel like there was anything to build up to an actual romance between the two of them. There was also the detective who seemed like he was trying to do what was right, and in the end did. His character is not super interesting, though. He's very basic, honestly. So I don't really have anything against his character, but he didn't do anything to excite me either. John Hurt as the fascist dictator, Sutton or something like that. He was great. He sold every scene really well. John Hurt was an amazing actor, though, to be fair. But he sold every scene well. He definitely felt like that kind of Christo-fascist dictator. Like, that is exactly how he read in his performance. Even just, I assume this was the same in the comic, but even just the way that there's the giant screen with basically just his face in camera when he was speaking to his panel of people and everything, like, that just feels like such a fascist dictator move to have that big, like, basically egotistical view of oneself to display to others. When everybody's seeing you, they're literally looking up at you at this big giant view of your face. Like, come on. It's not really hiding anything with that kind of view. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, he did a great job for sure. Stephen Fry, he's a fantastic actor, so no issues there. Um, the music was great, and I love the integration of classical music in this. I love the integration of the Count of Monte Cristo into this story. Definitely understood the connections there with V and Edmond Dantes. Um, being a fan of the Count of Monte Cristo. And by the way, if you have not seen the anime Gankutsu, the Count of Monte Cristo, I would definitely suggest checking that out. It's really good and takes the entire Count of Monte Cristo story in a whole new direction, and I love it. Um, but yeah, the 2000s movie with Guy Pearce is a great choice as well. Um, but yeah, I definitely got the connections there. Um, and I like that. I think it's a good way to innovate that kind of classic story while at the same time taking like a lot of homage from it. Um, the acting was all really good, just pretty much for everyone. Let's be honest. Um, the cinematography and framing of the scenes was fantastic. I really had no real big issues with this film, other than the romance subplot, which just again kind of came out of nowhere. I like what it was going for. I like what it did. Maybe it felt a little too long at points. There were a couple points where I was checking the time, um, but it was only a couple of points. Most of the movie did hold my attention really well. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. I like that it was clearly shining a light on those type of people as the villains. But I also like how it showed that V wasn't perfect either, that he made mistakes and did bad things as well. And he acknowledged it. Like, he acknowledged that he was wrong to do what he did with Evie, to trick her like that, to literally torture her as part of the ruse to make her, like, see past things or whatnot. You get the idea. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not good at wording things. You guys should know that by now. But yeah, he realized he was wrong, and in the end, I can definitely see why people still use the masks, the Guy Fawkes masks, and why it's kind of become a symbol in its own right for not just like anarchy, but political dissension, for just fighting the system, basically, fighting unjust political systems and actions and whatnot. I can definitely see that. Overall, it's a good film for sure. It's a good film for sure, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. I wouldn't say it's like one of the best movies or anything. But I would definitely say it's worth the watch. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of V for Vendetta? And if I missed anything, if I got any details wrong or maybe a little off, let me know. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of everything in movies like this that have so much information. But let me know. Tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you all so much for tuning in. And thank you to Venom0027 for suggesting this as a donation reward. Venom, if you or anyone else has any future suggestions, feel free to suggest them. As I always say, it's like I don't mind what it is, just as long as I haven't seen it and whatnot, then you should be fine to suggest pretty much anything. Just check with me first in the comments or whatever, just to make sure that I haven't seen it and everything. Um, but yeah, any suggestions are good. And I mean, if you have more movies like this, then sure, I'd be willing to check them out. Um, but yeah, for the time being, thank you all so much for tuning in. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.